Welcome back. Our next interview is with the wonderful Bette Blance from New Zealand. And what you may not know is that Bette was the interviewer that kicked off our 24 hours of the Mental Health Summit. And for her, this started yesterday. So here's the good news. I always like talking with people from New Zealand and Australia because it gives me hope that there will be another tomorrow because she's already there. And if you don't understand it, that's okay. It's confusing. Anyway, Bette is not only a member of the Mental Health and Happiness team, interviewer for the summit, a contributor on our blogs. She's also the representative for the William Glasser International Institute, representing New Zealand and Australia, and I'm not sure where else. She's a longtime educator and is the proud wife of many years with many girls and many grandchildren. So welcome back.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. It's a real privilege to be here. I'm delighted that we're able to have this chat. It's great. We know that there are people out there and they're possibly listening, but at the moment it's you and I.
That's right. That's right. And earlier today, Kim and I were able to have a chat while she was sitting in her office and I was sitting in her living room. And now here you and I are having a chat, and I'm sitting in Chicago, Illinois. And are you in Australia now?
I'm in Australia. I'm in Brisbane, Australia, sunny Queensland. Our second home.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So let's just get right into it, Bette. Tell me what first brought you to the idea of, yes, mental health and happiness is something I want to participate in?
Well, I would say it started many, many years ago, actually, Nancy. And if I think about happiness, in New Zealand in the 60s, there was a cartoon, and I used to collect it. And it was two little figures with no clothes on, which is interesting, but they were cartoon figures. And the title of it was, I Thought Happiness Is. And it would be in the newspaper, and I would collect it and thought, I like that one, I like that one. And I've just done my research before doing this interview, and I found that it's really not titled Happiness Is. It's titled Love Is. And so for me, love is happiness. Love of self, love of others, love of what you do. That for me is happiness. It was done by a New Zealand cartoonist called Kim Kasali, and I hadn't realised that until I had done the research on it. She became big in the not in the United States, in the United Kingdom, and was syndicated. That cartoon was actually syndicated, and it was things like little pictures with the title "Lovers Being Crazy Together" and never asking more than you're prepared to do for someone. So there were the light-hearted ones, and there were the deep ones as well. And I've just updated my knowledge of it on the internet, which is where I tend to go. And happiness today is free Wi-Fi. And unlimited download. So it's still there, but it's being updated. What I've also noticed is that there have been shifts in this idea of happiness over the last while. As you know, I do a lot of work on Facebook and sharing and collecting and that sort of thing. And now the sorts of things that are actually up there are things like happiness is by choice, not by chance. And so I think there's been a real shift into that area. So that's happiness. If we look at mental health, and there's been interesting discussions with Carlica and with various people, Gary Garneau yesterday, about happiness being a journey rather than a destination, and that sort of thing, and that mental health, mental well-being. I think that over time, the term mental health has been hijacked. Really, what people are talking about is mental illness. I was talking to a friend in New Zealand about the summit and saying what I was doing, and she said, mental health. Now, which area of mental health are you talking about? Is it depression or is it schizophrenia? Her thoughts immediately went to that it was mental illness, not mental health, which I found really interesting. Another story is I was in the supermarket and I asked one of the girls in the supermarket, where are the health products? And she said, follow me, as they do now, which I just love because they take you to where you want to go rather than a store. So she took me, but she took me to the medications. And so her view of health was you get healthy by taking drugs, by taking aspirin, whatever it is that you're going to. So that's out there, that sense that mental health really is around mental illness, and that's the focus. And even this week the focus has been on schizophrenia. And that's why I love this idea of the Mental Health and Happiness Summit and the blog and the website and all the wonderful things that you and Kim do, is because it is taking that focus away from mental illness and putting it on mental health. It's taking the ambulance away from the bottom of the cliff and putting the prevention strategies in at the top. So I recently presented a poster at the International Mental Health Conference on the Gold Coast. And I was told by people at that conference that New Zealand does really well in terms of mental health and education and talking about mental health. I spoke with one of the people from the New Zealand Foundation of Mental Health, and he was presenting a paper, and I said to him, made myself known to him and said that we actually had the summit was on that website as something coming up in Mental Health Week. And I said, my concern is that we're talking about mental illness, not mental health. And he said, yes, it's frustrating, isn't it? So he was with me on that whole notion. And so that Mental Health Foundation is, I'll just pull this out, is something that is working on what we can do to ensure that we have that focus on mental health rather than mental illness. Do you want me to go on and talk about that? Because it's
good. It's great. Yes, please.
Okay. So there was a trust that was formed, and it was renamed the Mental Health Foundation of New Zealand. It began as a grant-giving body in 1977. And over that time, they raised a lot of money. They did it through telethons. This was when I was a young mum. And they would have a telethon over 24 hours, and I'm sure it has happened in other countries as well. And they'd raise what I thought was way above what New Zealand would be able to do, but they did it hugely, 2.6 million in that first one that they did. And so money was available through this mental health foundation that had been formed, and so they allocated it to various projects around the country. And then in 1986, the foundation stopped giving those grants, but they continued their own work by being able to get donations and grants for themselves to keep operating. They developed the website, and it was about promoting mental health and well-being. It's interesting because I did a Google search last night on how Mental Health Week has been celebrated in various countries. And one country said many people were openly, vigorously, and informatively discussing mental illness. So I think what we're doing is just so different from what we
amazing.
And so that's a view on mental health that is where that website comes from and where those people come from in New Zealand. Yeah.
It's truly, it's amazing. Okay, so we've got work to do, and we've started.
Good start. Yeah.
Because I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bette.
Has anyone mentioned a definition of mental health in terms of Bill Glass's work?
Oh yes. And I'm happy to have you repeat it, because just because we mentioned it X number of hours ago doesn't mean that the people who are watching now are the people that are watching then. So please, Bette, if you're willing to share, please share what Bill Glasser's definition is.
Yes. For me, this definition is a bit scary because you look at it and you're evaluating yourself against it, and you think, am I mentally healthy? And but I think it gives us a guide as to the important things about what it is. And Glass's view was that we don't really have a definition of mental health. We have it of all of the mental illnesses. We have the DSM-4, 5, 6, 10, whatever we're going to go to with defining mental illness. But what if people are mentally healthy? What does that look like? What does that sound like? So it's about enjoying being with people that are important to you. And just in this summit, I've spent 3 days with my my friend Wayne, who is my technician, and we have learned together. And just enjoying the learning curves, but also enjoying the when we get something right and feeling absolute sense of power and achievement. So just enjoying that's been really, really important. Mm-hmm. I think also Bill Glasser talks about being able to help others if they're unhappy. And certainly the learning that we've done through choice theory has helped that. That certainly has been part of my journey is how do I help? How do I listen well? And I'm happy to do it. I don't do it because it's a chore. I do it because I really love somebody, and I'm happy to help them to get what they want in a way that's going to be productive for them. It's the tension-free life is probably the challenge.
I was just going to say, have you gotten there yet, then?
No, I think just this year, for example, I knew at the beginning of the year that it was going to be a huge year, going to Toronto and being part of the board and working with those wonderful people and doing presentations over there. And then I came back into co-convening a conference in New Zealand, and a hugely successful conference in New Zealand, but a lot of hours and a lot of highs and lows in that as well, in terms of just making sure that I was able to match my pictures and the pictures of that fantastic committee that I had. And then I jumped on a plane 2 days later, and I was in Brisbane working with understanding Google Hangout, and highs and lows there again. So I think I'm getting better at it, at being able to deal with it. When we had a bit of a glitch, and we were able to overcome that. It took us 14 minutes, but we did it.
14 minutes? Wow, Bette, fabulous! 14 minutes. Really? Yeah. Fab. It didn't take 14 days or 14 hours.
certainly. Well, we've had a lot of laughs. We've
Yeah.
had a lot of laughs with this whole thing, and I think that's a sign of mental well-being. Yeah. The big ones too that I have learned, and Glasser talks about accepting other people, that they don't always think the way that they do. And I think when you become an instructor with the William Glasser Institute, you learn that very, very quickly, that there are people who don't have the information that you have, and you look at ways that you can accept what they're saying because that's where they're at, but how do you help them to go from where they're at to where they want to be? And that's the important thing. So I think that's a sign of being mentally healthy in terms of Glasser's statement. And criticizing, blaming, complaining. The 7, we call them the disconnecting habits because in Australia, deadly means great. In the Indigenous community, they have what they call the deadlies, and it's all a celebration of all the best artists and musicians. And so we deliberately worked with the idea of disconnecting habits because we do believe that they are. But of course, we know that to avoid using those if we want to stay close to the people that we want to stay close to. And it's part of what I teach, and I love teaching that part because I think it's really so powerful, powerful. Yeah, so even in difficult situations, there's, at this time that you're unhappy, but you also know that staying there is not going to solve the problem, and that you know the ways to get yourself back on so that your scales are in balance, so that you are feeling better. So it's about just, I think, understanding choice theory has been absolutely huge in terms of my learning and my understanding, and it's allowed me to step back from a lot of things and say, okay, what's happening here? What's happening in my, how am I feeling? What's happening in my body? What do I need to do to get onto my front wheels? And that's been freeing, it's been empowering, it's been inspirational to know and understand that whole thing. So, yes, it's a challenge. That definition.
It is a challenge. Well, I remember when I was first learning, and it was actually pre-choice theory, it was reality therapy. And when Dr. Glasser said, it's our responsibility. We have to do it. And he also said, if we're going to teach it to other people, we need to learn how to do it ourselves. And I remember it's very similar to feeling to what you're talking about, this huge gulp. Wow, that's a hefty responsibility to be responsibility for everything. I remember, I'm sure you heard it as well, you'll never enjoy your depression nearly as much after you learn choice theory as you did before, which of course is true. And hard work, but worth every moment of it. Because with the responsibility of the sad also means the responsibility of what can I do to improve who I am in this situation, even if I can't improve the situation. That's very freeing as well.
Yes.
So yeah, really interesting and amazing. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about how you understand the what shall I call them? The moments of sad, the moments of unhappy, the moments of disappointment, the moments of frustration. Even if we are as mentally healthy as we can be and have greater happiness, does that mean that all our sad moments and disappointments and frustrations evaporate?
No. Gary put it really well last night when he was saying that sadness just is. It's part of who we are, and it was Karlika, I think, who said, just let that sadness come in, just be with it, and know that it too will pass, and know that there are things that you can choose when you're in that situation, but not to deny it, not to say it's not there, and it's going to come back. There's always going to be disappointments and sadness, and some greater than others, but it's how you deal with it and how you think about it and what you do, what you choose to do as a result of that sadness. For some people, that's their life, that's their reality. They stay with it. They spin on their back wheels, as we say, and they're unhappy people. And sometimes if somebody cares enough to listen to them and can help them to clarify for themselves, that's probably all that they need if they're feeling sad. Yes. Part of life.
It is part of life, isn't it? I remember early on in my learning, I had this. I made this up. Nobody taught me this. I was clever enough to be that creative. But if I had my moments where I was frustrated or sad or angry, I must be doing it wrong. So then, of course, I would pretend it wasn't true. And, of course, now I'm not being true to me. And eventually, I got so it's like, yeah, no, I really do feel unhappy. Okay, so if I'm feeling unhappy, all behavior is purposeful. What is it I want that I'm not getting? And, maybe it's a time for me to be quiet and just focus more on what I want instead of, okay, I'm sad I don't have it. At the same time, is there something I can do to move closer to what it is that I want? But it was definitely a learning process. This brilliant notion of choice theory psychology that Dr. Glasser helped us understand. It was so simple to understand and really so challenging. Continues to be challenging. Because again, the understanding is, I know I shouldn't use the disconnecting habits, but I also understand as a choice theory psychology person, I still have an urge to behave in a disconnecting way.
Just do it.
That's right. I still want you to want what I want you to want, and I'm right. But to take a moment not to act on that urge. Yeah.
No, that's so true. Yes. Yeah. Nancy, I love the quote that you had. When you look for what is right in the world, that's just what you will discover. And I think that flicks through for yourself when you think, okay, what's the learning here? What can I gain from this? What is positive about this? What is it that I really want? And I think that helps enormously as well.
Well, again, from choice theory, our brain is set up like a negative feedback loop. So we'll notice. A couple of people have mentioned this throughout the day today. But it's a survival thing. We better know that pussycat that we met when we came out of the cave was a lion, not a cute little kitten to domesticate. So we needed to have the urge to behave when things were dangerous, for instance. But we have to go against our brain to notice what's right. That many people actually, so again, my experience is many people say, well, you'll only notice it when it's bad or when it's wrong. You never talk about what's good. Well, that's the way our brain is set up. It's not that we're people who crave negativity. It's a biological function. So, but you can train yourself to find the right, to find the beauty, to find the things you're grateful for. And not have to worry that the mismatches will still make themselves known to you. You're not at danger of peril of danger of danger. What would you say? Well, what kinds of mental health and happiness tips that do you practice yourself, or that you would share with other people, or that you're aware of but you don't necessarily practice? If people are trying to improve their mental health and happiness, what kinds of suggestions might you make?
Yes. Again, I go back to that website, the New Zealand Mental Health Foundation, and the whole website is about ways in which you can be mentally feel great, be mentally healthy, have that mental well-being. And they term 5 ways of 5 ways of well-being, and the first one is connect.
Ah,
And so connect, develop, nurture those relationships that are important to you. In New Zealand, I'm in a small country town, and my mum, who we went back to look after when she was terminally ill, had belonged to what's called the Lyceum Club. And I don't know how common that is throughout the world, but I know that there are clubs. And it's a club that caters for women, and it is women only. A group of women have got together. They have, in the past, quite a way in the past, they have bought a property in the town. They've built the club rooms, a very, very pleasant club rooms, and they have different circles. And there might be a theatre circle, there might be an art circle, there are very good walking circles. I don't think they do marathons, but they have grades up from walking to tramping to trek, and they go away and they connect. And I have been a member so that I could initially so I could take Mum along, and then I've continued my membership because of the connections. And there was a group called the Discussion Group. And a lot of these were women in their 80s, even in 90s, who were involved in this discussion circle. And we'd meet once a month, have a morning tea. Someone would do morning tea, and we'd chat. And I initially went along thinking that this will be interesting. My mum's friend said, "Bet, come along to this. You really like it." And I got there, and the group were actually discussing unmarried mothers and getting the benefit and all of these negative things that were happening. And so I thought, when I left the first meeting, I thought, I don't know whether I'm going to connect with this, but then maybe I could change that and I could give them some information. So over a period of time, we talked about the 6 thinking hats and taking off the negative hat and putting on the green hat or the yellow hat, and we followed through with that. And so that connection was lovely, to the point that when I was unable to continue on with that group, she would have been about 86, an 86-year-old, she said, "Bet, you have helped us to think differently." And I thought, if people connect in that way and that they can get information that's going to help them to change their thinking, then that's a good thing. And so that connection is really, really been interesting. And I continue on, and I go when I can and have lunches and things like that. So it's just a nice group. It supports a lot of women who are on their own.
yeah.
They feel going out for dinner at the club rooms at night by themselves, because it's a very safe group and they know people. There are some long-time residents in it. There's another connection that I have. We live on a road that's about 2 kilometres out of town, a small town, 6,000 people, and this group has been meeting since 1973 once a month and doing stuff. And the stuff could be a guest speaker comes in, or it could be that we go off and have lunch somewhere, or afternoon tea, or visit gardens, because there are beautiful gardens around Morrinsville where we live in New Zealand. And it's also that network, the grapevine, if you like. If somebody's sick, then people are told. There's like a telephone tree that people get that information. So that sort of information, if people can connect with those sorts of groups or even form their own, I think that's really important. I mean, obviously there are sports clubs, you've got family gatherings, you've got reunions, all of those ways to connect. Social media, for some people it's evil, for some people it's absolutely wonderful, and it depends, I guess, on who's on there with you and what sort of information you pay attention to and what sort of information you just skip over. But for me, it's a strong way of connecting. I found out that my sister had been to her grandson's 21st and her granddaughter's 18th birthday dinner party last night, and I knew it immediately. And so that strong connection about what was happening. And of course, all of the I love the quotes that come through and the pictures and the articles and things that can be shared. And there's just one here from Mother Teresa, and said, peace begins with a smile. Every time you smile at someone, it's an action of love, a gift to that person that they are beautiful. And that is a beautiful thing. And that was Mother Teresa. So you pick up all that sort of thing. So that connecting is really, really a key to it. Not everyone has it. Some people have it and they lose it, and they're sad and unhappy because they've lost it, whether it's through death or whether it's through people moving away or some family disagreement or whatever. Sometimes you can't get it the way that you would really want it, but it's getting it in some way that's really important, and making that move to connect. So that's connect. There are 5 ways. The second one is give. To do something nice for a stranger, thank somebody, volunteer your time. It feels good to give, and some, for people, that's a way of maintaining their balance, a way of feeling good about yourself. I came across a site that talked about time banking. I thought, wow, this is a great idea. In a community, if you have a skill, for example, if I was in a community and I was in one place long enough, I could go and give an hour in the garden of somebody who needs that. That person might be really good with banking or with accounting, and they could come and give me an hour lesson. And there's no every job is just an hour long. It doesn't matter the skills that are involved or anything. And I thought, wow, that's a great way of giving. Being able to just give the skills that you have, and then getting what you want as well. So I'm going to give that some thought.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yes. And then give away a smile. It's really easy to well, when I say it's really easy, it's a conscious effort to do that. I know that I was working at the university at one stage, and I used to walk down the corridor, and there was often one of the other lecturers would walk, and he'd walk by me, wouldn't make any eye contact, wouldn't smile, and I found out later that he was an archaeologist, and I wonder whether that was, his connection with humans was not as important to him. I persisted over a whole, probably 18 months. I persisted, and I'd smile, and every time I walked past him, I'd smile, and whether he noticed it or not. But finally, and I thought, wow, that's great. I didn't stop doing it because I wasn't getting the response. It didn't cost me anything to give that smile. And I knew that if I hung in there long enough, that maybe he might smile back. So those are 2, connect and give. The next one's take notice. Take notice. Take notice of things around you. Because how often are we so busy that we don't actually notice the things that are around us, and well, in terms of choice theory, we spike them, don't we?
Yeah.
Just getting out into my garden in New Zealand and walking around and seeing what's coming out, particularly in springtime. You've got bulb. I think, oh, I didn't know I had that, because this was Mum's garden, Mum and Dad's garden. Oh, I didn't know that was there. Or maybe I hadn't been there at that time of the year to see that particular come out. But just noticing that. I know that when I was teaching on the Gold Coast, which has got a lot of canals, and Karen, our daughter, who was with us at that time, and I would be driving because she was at the same school, and every time, she never ever said anything, but she still remembers it. Every time we went past the canals and they were glassy, I would say, oh, look at those beautiful canals. Every time, and so it was just noticing it, because it would be easy not to see that sort of thing. And of course, a lot of information around about mindfulness at the moment. stopping, calming, resting, noticing. It's about noticing, and the healing benefits of those sorts of things. I went to a conference. You can tell I'm a conference junkie. I went to a conference and there was a Buddhist priest who was talking about mindfulness and being in the present. And from time to time, I remember what he was saying, and it was about washing dishes and being present and watching. And I watch as I watch, and I do it nice and slowly once in a while when I can discipline myself to do that, because you get on to the next job. And just noticing how the soap forms a film, and how the bubbles run down, and all of those little things. And it's a mini meditation doing that. He also, he gave each of us a piece of chocolate, and it was dark chocolate, which I know can be quite bitter for some people. But he asked us to eat it, but not to go further than the sensations of it, to try and stay away from your knowledge of chocolates or whether you liked it or not. So just stay back in those sensing filters and eat that chocolate. And fascinating, he said this is a 2-minute meditation, and you're getting chocolate as well. And
I might adopt that practice. You know, I have to have this whole box of chocolates. I'm meditating. That's not what you said, though, is
it? So, take notice, to see what's around you, be in the present, do all of those sorts of things, because ruminating about the past steals our time, and worrying about the future steals our time. And so that's a way of, that's a tip, I guess, about how to stay mentally healthy. The fourth one is keep learning. And, it's not. It's something that I do, and I just keep. I'm a lifelong learner. I really just love learning, and the highs and lows of that learning too. And I'm just relating it to being on this Google Hangout and learning all of the technology. And at my age, I need to keep making those dendrites work, function, whatever they do, and to keep making those neural pathways, refreshing those neural pathways. And so while it's a challenge, it would be easy just to sit back and read a book and not to do stuff, but to really push yourself and challenge. And that's, for me, is what keep learning. And it's really interesting too, Nancy. I'm just keeping an eye on the time as well.
We're okay.
My experience is that people who, when they go through challenging times, they can become learners. They can be really, really focused. And I think that we saw that with Mary yesterday, that she was put in a situation where her husband there was damage to his brain through some medication that was administered before an operation. And she got straight into learning about everything that she could about it, and so she became a mini expert on these things. She asked questions, she did everything that she could to find out. She's taken on the medical profession in a big way. She really is vigilant about who and what and where and why things are being done. And I guess she's had a few doctors on their back foot. So she's also now taken on the legal profession because of something that they're pursuing, because of some malpractice that happened. And so she just wants to be the best person that she can be in this really difficult situation.
Wow.
Yeah. Other people I know who have children with disabilities, they learn, they do everything that they possibly can to understand it, and that's how they operate. So learning new things, being confident, but also having fun as well while you're doing it. And of course, learning choice theory is the greatest gift of learning that you can give anyone,
Yeah.
including yourself, and
Yeah.
continue that too. So the last one is be active, and to bring activity every day into your life. And it sounds a bit strange, but one of the days that I really, really enjoy is that I've got time to sit on my computer and write, and then when I get to a stage where I think I need a walk or I need to do so, I'll go out into the garden and do some weeding. And so that activity, part of it is cognitive, thinking, and then you get out into the fresh air, and even if it's not a nice day, it's just being active. And so lots of things. I don't think it's necessarily doing exercise. It can be, but it's just being active. One of the things, and again, I'm not sure whether it's unique to Australia and New Zealand, but they have what they call the walking bus to school.
Say it again, because you've kind of faded. The walking bus?
Walking bus.
Wow.
So instead of jumping on the bus to go to school in the morning, parents monitor it, and they will roster themselves on so that they will lead a walking bus, and they walk a particular route along the footpaths, and children join in the walking bus, and so they're walking to school, but they're doing it in a way that's safe, but they're getting that activity. So I think that's a great idea.
Oh my gosh! If there's anything like that around the States, I know nothing about it. I love that. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So it means that everyone's getting that activity as well, the parents as well as the children. So it's good, and they get to school more ready to learn because they've had that physical activity as well, rather than sitting on the bus and getting there. So yeah, lots of suggestions. Have a go day. Have a town where you have different activities, sporting activities, but cultural activities all open on a day, and people can go around and try out things. Another one here is hold a family dance-off with everyone being able to choose their own music. I reckon that would be fun. I think
that would be fun.
Grandchildren, that would be fun, as long as I didn't have an audience. I wouldn't be doing it on a Google Hangout. And then there are things like Tai Chi, doing those sorts of forms of exercise. The Lyceum Club has things like that. They do Tai Chi, they do, as I said, the walking and the trekking and the hiking and all those sorts of things. So just something that gets you active and doing stuff. Yes. And I guess the challenge is that if we look at those 5 things, do schools do that? How much do they put into children connecting with each other? Or are they hooked into you sit on your own and you do your own work and work as individuals? So how much do we do that? How much do we have them taking notice? And I know some of the teachers that I've worked with have actually used that mindfulness as a strategy in the classroom. Keep learning, I guess that's what schools are on about, being active. So whether it's a school, whether it's a family, as a family, how can we do that as well? So I think that's the challenge. I've lost my page now. Yes.
Well, that's brilliant. My son's mother-in-law, who also happens to be a friend of mine, is the fund director. Isn't that a great title? Wouldn't you love to be a fund director for a senior living place? Many places call it activities director, but Jackie is actually the fund director. And she is fun. I mean, it's a perfect job. She's perfect for it. It's well done. I'm going to share with her, unless she's listening today and hear it, because I know she did sign up. But those 5 things, those are powerful things for any organization or any individual person. It's brilliant. So can you give us the name of the website again? Because I heard it, but give us the actual is www dot what?
Learning. If you Google Mental Health Foundation New Zealand, you'll get it.
Great. That's all. That's great.
Yes.
And I've got to ask you this because I wrote a blog about it. It was on my, I have one of those daily rip-off calendars. And it said, I can't even remember the date now, but it was Picnic Day in Australia. Is there an official picnic day? I wondered if they were just making it up and filling up space. Do you know of such a holiday?
It's not a holiday, but it's a holiday activity that is because of the weather. The weather is particularly here on the Gold Coast or in Brisbane. The weather is conducive to outdoors. It's absolutely beautiful, and that's why over the last few years we've come back in the winter time because the winter is just stunning. But excuse me, also the local council will have a park and they will have a barbecue in the park. And they will have the wooden chairs and maybe even a canopy over it. So it's encouraged, it's part of the lifestyle here. So it would not surprise me if there was a picnic day designated on the Australian calendar. There probably would be a Barbie day for a barbecue.
Right. That's kind of what I thought. But I thought, well, even if they're making it up, I love it.
Yeah.
But I actually thought that I might hear from some of my Aussie friends who said, yeah, that they totally made that up. But anyway, okay, I'll stay in my fantasy of it.
Good, yes.
So there's just a couple of other things that I want to make sure that we have a chance to talk about. That if people want to get in touch with you, how is it that people could stay in touch? How can they connect with you?
If you go to the William Glasser Institute New Zealand website, as president there, I have a direct email link so that people can contact me that way. www.glasser.nz.org.nz. So that's probably the easiest way to do it through there.
Okay, let me do a little translation. So for some of you who may not know, NZ means NZ. We call it Z. Dot NZ. So Z is how much of the world calls the letter Z. We call it Z. I don't know why. We just do. I don't know why you do it your way. Anyway.
It's like everything, isn't it? See, we take charge and all the American spelling and the understanding. It's wonderful. It's part of that learning. We're learning.
It is. It is, and the part of my experience actually, and having the good fortune of visiting both New Zealand and Australia, is a place that speaks English, and still we don't speak the same language, which is great fun. And a couple of things that I want to ask you, but the first one is, so what do you think the biggest obstacle at this point that you see that we as an organization are attempting, and part of that also is mental health and happiness? What do you see as our biggest obstacles that we might begin to translate into opportunities?
Yes. That's a big one. I think, and this is for me personally as well. Waiting for the perfect time is something that we do, and the time will never be perfect, and it's that we will never have everything that we deserve, but we need to act now, and we need to do it knowing that there will be possibly anxiety and fear, but we need to, and confusion, but we need to do it now and learn together. I think that's that's one for me. That's one of the obstacles, is that we're waiting for the right time for this to happen, but that time is now. And I think that's what we're doing with this summit. We're taking that. We've gone on. We've progressed into this with perhaps some confusion, and that's great. That's great, because we're all learning together. So,
Well, and the
yeah.
fabulous thing is this is the best summit we've ever had, Bette, because it's
I
the
love it.
first summit. So yeah.
Premier. No, that's true. Yes, yes.
Any others that you see?
Sorry, say that again.
Are there any other obstacles that you see?
Um, Time and energy.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I think that's personally for me that's an obstacle. And making sure that I do stay in an area where my scales may be out of balance, but I know that this will pass, and that things will work themselves out, and very often I don't have to do anything, but it's just that having the time and energy. You become your worst enemy when you want perfection, and I think that's an obstacle for me. Is I want it to be absolutely right. I have learned that it's not going to be absolutely right all the time, and I need to. I've learned to accept that, and just be and enjoy what I do, and who I do it with. And I've had some wonderful opportunities over this year to work with people who I admire, including yourself. I admire tremendously, and so that has been just a gift for me to be able to do that. So I'll just keep learning.
Excellent. Excellent. And the feeling is mutual, Bette. Okay, so the last thing is there one thing you'd like our audience to take away from you and me talking together for this time period? One thing you want to make sure they hold on to, or a message you want to leave them with, or?
Well, I was thinking about this because, and I went to the Mental Health and Happiness Summit, and I looked at the little tagline that's at the bottom, and you have to do it by yourself, but you don't have to do it alone. And I think even just tapping into the people who've been interviewed, tapping into the websites, tapping into the resources. This afternoon I'm going to be working with Ivan Honey, and Carlica had resources. There are lots of things there that can help you. So you don't have to do it alone, but you do need to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Bette, on so many levels. The first is the privilege of getting to talk with you and share the thoughts that you have and ideas that you have and experiences and resources. And certainly I thank you for being a willing participant in our initial summit. I can completely blame you that when you informed us at a board meeting that today was our October 10 is World Mental Health and Happiness Day, or World Mental Health Day. That's when Kim and I said, oh, we can do a summit. And you said, yeah, I want to be doing that too. So I appreciate your sharing that as well. And being a willing learner and willing to take mistakes and learn from them, and being successful, because it is the absolute best summit that we've ever had and beyond my wildest imagination. So I thank you for that as well. So the next for a little bit at the top of the hour, I will be interviewing Dr. Pat Roby. So come on back and learn some more. But for now, take a drink and drain break, or do whatever you need to do to relieve your strain. And we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks again, Bette.
Thank you.